Paddings and margins seem to cause a ton of confusion, especially amongst beginners. When should you use which one and why should you be using that one? This is the start of a 3-part series. We're going to explore this and get really in-depth on how padding and margin really work. Even if you think you know how margins and padding work, I encourage you to actually watch the whole thing because I'm not just glossing over all of this. I'm making a 3-part series on margins of padding of all things. I'm looking at really how they work, including some weird and quirky behaviors that you might not fully expect or understand. So hi there, my name is Kevin, and here at my channel we learn how to make the web and how to make it look good while we're at it. And really, that's the plan for this series. We're going to be starting with this video really nice and simple. What are margins and padding? Like the real basics behind them, when you should choose one over the other one, and just the basic behaviors that you might expect from them. In the next video, we're going to explore one of the most annoying concepts that a lot of people don't understand, which is collapsing margins. Along the way, we're also going to explore how we can change the behavior of margins and paddings through changing the box sizing property. And once we really understand how everything is working and we're super comfortable with it all, we're going to make a third video where what we're doing is actually building out a nice realistic looking thing where I'm going to be taking a deep dive into my thought process behind margins and paddings. And that video isn't so much on how they're working, it's how we can use them to make things look good and understanding why space is important or why empty space is important and how we can leverage that empty space to make a better looking design. So enough of an introduction, that was a long one, I apologize for that. Let's jump right into it now. Alright, so here we are in CodePen. So the link for this will be shared below, but you don't really need it. It's a really simple thing. For the moment, I've commented out a little bit so we can focus on one box, but I'll bring in some other boxes after when we start exploring things a little more. Basically, I have a box here, width 100, height 100, and I have a little margin of 10 at the moment, just creating some empty space around it. So basically what margin's doing is it's creating empty space around my box. So it's giving me this space right here going around and it's keeping it off the edge of my screen. So if I had a margin of 0, you can see it actually be touching the side of it. So the margin property though is actually a shorthand. So that's why when I do a margin of 10, it's pushing it across by 10 and down by 10, and it's actually adding 10 to the bottom and to the right all at the same time. We can control all of them separately. So I can say something like margin top of 100 pixels, and it just creates an empty space of 100 pixels on top of that box. Actually, I should be putting this on my box here. So margin bottom of 100 pixels. That was a margin top, wasn't it? Top of 100 pixels. So that's going to push that one box down. Now, what we could also do, let's turn this second box on, or let's just bring them all in, I guess. So you can see that's pushing this down now. So now if I go on my box number 1 and I give that a margin bottom of 100 pixels, now it's creating the empty space on the bottom. And one last one, margin left 50 pixels, and it will push it over 50 pixels. I could add margin to the right, we just won't see it because there's nothing on the right of my box right now. So margin is the fundamental way of creating empty space around something. It pushes things away from, or either it's pushing away from stuff. Basically, it's pushing away from everything else. So it's creating this empty space that nothing else can be inside of. As I mentioned, this is a shorthand, or this is the long way of writing it. The shorthand is just the margin property by itself. So I could actually get this exact same thing. And well, we also have margin right. So let's just add a margin right of also 50 pixels. So I could write all of that, margin top, bottom, left, and right, all inside of here. So I could say that the margin top is 100 pixels. Then the margin right is going to be 50 pixels. The margin bottom is 100 pixels, and the margin left is 50 pixels. So this is exactly what I had written before. Now, what this is doing is it goes in the order of a clock. So it's top, right, bottom, left. So if I change this bottom one to 200, that space will get bigger. Or if I make this one only 10 pixels, the space on top will get smaller. So I can control them all separately. Now, you don't have to write 4 properties in here. You could write only 3. So in this case, I have 10, 50, 200, 50. So these ones are different, but my left and the right are the same. If I took off the last one, it's going to use this for both the left and the right. So I have 100 on the top, 50 on the left and the right, and then 200 pixels on the bottom. Now if I get rid of the 200 here, what's going to happen is it's going to use this one for the top and bottom, and this one for the left and the right. So you can see when it's bigger, and when I take that off, it gets smaller. So now it's 100, 100, and then 50, 50. And if I take this off, then it's 100 on all four sides. So when it's just margin and a number, all the sides are getting the same margin. So margin is creating all of this empty space around an object, on the outside of the content of that object. Padding works very exactly much the same. The only difference is it's inside of my box instead of on the outside of my box. So if I go padding 100 pixels on box number 2, it's taking up the same amount of space as this one, because I have empty space, empty space, empty space, empty space. In this case, the content is the same as it was before, but I'm adding space inside of my box. Just to really highlight what's actually happening here, let's write some text inside of these so we can see where it's going. So here I have 1, and it's just, that's how you'd expect it to. Here we can see number 2. So 2 isn't stuck up here in the corner because I'm adding empty space inside of my box. So let's just make this, let's go back to 0. So it looks like this one does here, or all the other ones. So I have my 2, and then I'm going to do padding. Let's just do a padding top of 100 pixels to make sure you really get it. So it's adding empty space inside my box. So it's adding 100 pixels of empty space, then I get to my content. So if I do my padding left of 100 pixels now, it's adding that empty space inside, and then my content box can start. So there's my content inside of there. So that's why if we just did padding 100 pixels, these two effectively are the same size as one another. This one is just with white space around it, and this one includes the background color. Now, it's really important to remember that under normal circumstances like this one, padding adds to the total size of my box. My box has gotten bigger. We can change this behavior by changing the box sizing property, but we'll see that in another video. But for now, it's when we're playing with margins and paddings, they add to the total size of things. So you might have a nice calculated out layout where you have 3 columns and it's all looking good, and you go, actually, I want to make my width a bit more padding on that, and then it breaks your layout. And that could be because all of a sudden your element's bigger than it used to be. So just always remember margin, padding, and border, which I'm not talking about in this video, add to the total size of things. And I'm not talking about border because people usually understand border. I find margin and padding, people mix them up. Now, the other thing that's important to remember is if they don't have a background color on them, you won't notice a difference, because the big thing that makes the big difference between the two is the background color. This includes background color, this doesn't. If on my box 1 here, we took off the background color, it looks like that. And if I change this to padding, it looks exactly the same. Literally nothing changed because there's no background color, so we can't see a difference. Now, that doesn't mean that one is better or that doesn't mean you shouldn't be choosing the right one. There's still a better choice to make between the padding and the margin. It's just when there's no background color at all and nothing that would really distinguish it, it's a lot less important. And it also sometimes makes it harder to choose. Should I be choosing padding or should I be choosing margin? And honestly, luckily we're just writing stuff and then stuff happens on the screen. So if you don't remember which one to use, you try one and you go, I want padding. And then, oh, no, that's not what I wanted. I wanted to push it away. That must have been margin. Hey, there you go. You fixed it. So it's nice and simple just to be able to, switch between one or the other, especially while you're learning them, because, it's probably the best way to do it and to really get in there. Now, one thing that's really fundamental with margins and padding also is being able to center something horizontally on the screen. So let's go and do this with box number 3. So to be able to center something on the screen, you might have already found it or used it, but I want to make sure you understand what's happening, is using auto margins. So on my box 3 here, I'm going to do a margin, but I'm not going to do it on all sides. I'm just going to do a margin left of auto. And I don't know if you know what's going to happen or not. But take a guess at what's going to happen if you're not sure. And it's probably not what you expect. Is that what you thought would happen? It just shoots across the screen. The margin left of auto means make the margin on the left side as big as possible. make it fill up the space. So that means it doesn't matter what the space is. The size can change, and it's automatically calculating this margin. It's figuring it out on its own to know how big it should be. So that margin is just automatically calculated to fill up the entire space. I could do the same thing with a margin right, but we wouldn't see anything because it's already lined up on that side. But what we can do is we can do a margin right and a margin left of auto. And that's going to center it bang in the middle because it's automatically calculating this one and this one to fill up as much space as possible. And that means they're going to be the same size all the time. And it's just going to be perfectly centered on the screen. Now, this is really a fundamental concept of how to center something. But there's one sort of drawback. Let's get rid of all of these. Just leave our box number 4. What some people think they can then do is do a margin top of 0 of auto and a margin bottom of auto, and nothing happens. What? Why not? Honestly, because CSS. There's no other explanation. It's how it's written in the spec. It says that if the margin top or bottom are set to auto, it will just be calculated as 0. That's literally what the spec on this says. So that's why it doesn't actually move. So that's why you'll usually see something like a margin 0 auto to center something on the screen. Just reset, and actually now that I think about it, this is how I always write it. But if the spec says that margin top and bottom auto is 0, you could just write it like that. You don't really need the 0 auto. This is just more explicit in saying that the top and bottom are 0 and lets you play with it a bit, I guess. But the left and right will center it, up and down won't. Now, if you get into Flexbox and Grid, maybe you'll find some other information on this. Things work a little differently than you might expect. But looking at it at the very basic level like this, vertically centering is hard, horizontally centering, super easy. Margin left and margin right 0 will center it on the screen because it automatically calculates them to be as big as possible. And that's just one of the quirky behaviors of CSS, because with margins, I should say, well, with CSS too, CSS is full of quirky behaviors, and that's why I'm doing a series like this, because weird stuff like this, we're going to see more quirky behaviors in the next one. And that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to this channel so you get regular updates like this one, including the next video where we're going to be looking at collapsing margins, resets, and the box sizing property. And one last thing before we go, I just want to give a big shout out to my patrons who make all of this possible. So thank you so much for supporting me, guys. And if you are curious or interested about what Patreon is or how you could help support this channel, there is a link down in the description below, or there should be one on the side, one of these sides right now. So yeah, check that out if you're interested. And don't forget, until next time, make your corner of the internet just a little bit more awesome.